The training arena was massive, a hollowed-out section of the orbital station carved from raw durasteel and reinforced carbon lattice walls. Its ceiling extended beyond sight, dotted with hovering energy projectors and observation drones that hummed like a chorus of mechanical insects. Aliens of dozens of species lined the perimeter, some perched on catwalks, others floating in grav chambers. They came to watch, as they always did, expecting the familiar spectacle, a human struggling, flinching, burning out in seconds. The instructor stepped into the center, and the air shifted. He was a Xylan, six-limbed, with plates of reflective metal woven into a chitin-like exoskeleton. His mandibles clicked in amusement as he surveyed the human. "You cannot block plasma with steel," he said. The words were less instruction than prophecy, a warning he fully intended to fulfill. "This is not negotiation. This is survival. And you will fail." The human raised her blade. It was a monomolecular edge, forged in one of Earth's hidden crucibles, and it hummed faintly in resonance with the arena's electromagnetic fields. Her name was Mara Quinn. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, yet her posture was impeccable. Every movement radiated quiet confidence, the kind that comes from a lifetime of being underestimated, and surviving anyway. "I don't fight the flow," she said. Her voice carried easily across the arena, calm but unwavering, almost teasing. "I am the flow." The instructor's laughter rang out like shards of glass. "Child! Your ancestors cowered at fire. You will die here, as all your kind has died." The first plasma bolt tore across the arena. Mara didn't flinch. She sidestepped. The bolt screamed past her, leaving a trail of incandescent energy in the air. Sparks erupted as it grazed the edge of her blade. The crowd of alien spectators murmured, some in surprise, most in irritation. Xylan had trained for millennia to predict plasma trajectories, to anticipate energy flow. The human should have been vaporized before she completed a single step. Instead, she moved forward. Another bolt came, faster, hotter, intended to slice through her chest plate. She raised her blade horizontally and twisted her wrist. The energy fragmented midair, scattering like shards of sunlight across a stormy sea. Her movement was not just deflection, it was control. She was bending the rules the instructor had sworn were immutable. A ripple of confusion passed through the observing aliens. "Impossible," one muttered in a voice like grinding metal. Another hissed. "She doesn't just survive, she adapts instantly." The instructor's mandibles clacked furiously. "Focus! Your instincts are primitive. Predictable. You will obey the laws of physics." He summoned a lattice of plasma, a glowing web that should have trapped her within seconds. But Mara paused only for a heartbeat, tilting her head as if considering a puzzle. Then she ran. Her feet barely touched the ground, yet she weaved through the lattice with effortless grace. Sparks danced across her blade, carving arcs of light as she moved. Each step was deliberate, precise, but also daring. She did not just evade, she disarmed. Mini-drones fired on her from concealed turrets. She kicked one into another, and the chain reaction left 3 more drones in flames. Another bolt nearly struck her from behind. She spun, slashed, and deflected it, redirecting its energy toward a hovering observation drone. It exploded spectacularly, raining sparks across the arena floor. The aliens gasped collectively. A small, wiry human, using nothing but reflexes and intuition, was destroying layers of defense meant to keep her alive only long enough to witness death. The instructor's pride shattered piece by piece. You are. Mara smiled faintly, not cruelly, not mockingly, but with the same serene calm that comes from knowing you've mastered the impossible. "I am not here to impress you," she said. "I am here to survive. And maybe, to win." The instructor's 6 limbs flexed in frustration. He summoned a second lattice, overlapping the first, creating a grid of lethal energy. The room vibrated with the power of it. The aliens watched tensely, some taking notes, some clutching weapons instinctively. Most expected the human to die in the next second, as had been the fate of every human who had come before. But Mara paused. She crouched low, spinning her blade in a small circle, eyes scanning, muscles coiled. The first energy lattice ignited near her head, the second closed behind her. She did not panic. She did not flinch. She ran, but not blindly. Her movements were a conversation with death itself. Plasma flares split apart against her blade as though even the arena's energy acknowledged her mastery. From the observation balcony, commanders whispered. "She's not just fast, she predicts." Another hissed. "She's learning on the fly." The instructor's rage became palpable. "You rely on instinct," he snarled. "Primitive instincts cannot overcome energy constructs. You cannot comprehend the forces you are facing." "I don't need to comprehend," Mara said softly. Her blade sliced the air again, and plasma bolts intended for her reflection exploded in harmless showers of sparks. "I just need to act." She leapt, spinning over a cluster of drones, landing on a support strut above the arena floor. From there, she ran along the edge of a catwalk, using every surface, every angle, as if the entire arena were an extension of her own body. Drones fell before her, exploding. Plasma lattices shorted themselves against energy dispersal arcs left in her wake. The Xylan watched, horrified, as a human redefined the rules of combat in real time. The instructor snarled, and for the first time, there was doubt in his gaze. How is this possible?" "You called us fragile," Mara said quietly, almost gently. "You called us expendable. You said we couldn't block plasma with steel. You were wrong. Very wrong." The observation deck went silent. Aliens who had believed in human inferiority, who had mocked Earth's primitive species, now understood something fundamental. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and terrifyingly ingenious. Even a single human could dismantle decades of preparation, rewriting the parameters of warfare with nothing but reflex, courage, and sheer audacity. The instructor took a step back, mandibles trembling. You are a child. This is training. You will pay for your insolence." Mara's eyes narrowed. She did not flinch. She did not hesitate. "I already am paying. And I already am winning." The arena shook as she sprinted toward him. Sparks flew. The instructor raised another energy lattice, but she was already inside, weaving, spinning, cutting, redirecting, and in moments, standing mere meters from him. His roar echoed through the walls of the arena, a mixture of fury and disbelief. And Mara Quinn, the human who was smaller than most of her enemy's limbs, stood calm. Her blade shimmered in the haze of ionized air. "I am not here to follow your rules," she said. "I am here to break them." The instructor's laugh had died in his throat. The aliens around the arena leaned forward, their expressions frozen between fascination and terror. Humanity, they realized, was not a species to underestimate. And Mara Quinn, small, unassuming, smiling faintly as sparks danced across her blade, proved it. The arena was a wreck. Smoke curled from shattered drones, arcs of residual plasma hissed across scorched panels, and alarms blared in a cacophony that would have driven any ordinary human mad. Mara's boots barely made a sound on the scorched metal floor, her blade humming faintly in resonance with the damaged systems around her. Every eye in the observation deck was on her, every alien instinct screaming that she shouldn't be alive, that she shouldn't even exist. The instructor, the pride of Xylan military engineering, staggered backward. His 6 limbs twitched, manipulating energy constructs, trying desperately to rebuild the lattice walls he had so confidently deployed. Sparks danced along his exoskeleton, a harsh, flickering testament to his anger. How do you survive this?" he hissed, each word clipped and fractured by disbelief. "I survive," Mara said, her voice low but sharp, "because I refuse to die where you think I will." She darted forward, weaving through his attempts to trap her. Drones swarmed from hidden recesses, plasma cutters launched from concealed turrets, but Mara treated them like obstacles in a training drill, neutralizing each one with a combination of precision, instinct, and uncanny timing. One drone fired a concentrated beam meant to vaporize her mid-leap. She rolled sideways and kicked it into a support column, the collision sending it spinning into another drone. A chain reaction of explosions rocked the arena, leaving arcs of plasma sizzling harmlessly across the walls. The aliens watching began to murmur in shock, confusion spreading like wildfire. "She's not just fast," one whispered. "She anticipates, she thinks ahead, she uses our weapons against us." The instructor's mandibles clicked nervously. "You rely on instinct, yes, but instinct is not enough. You cannot outmatch engineering, logic, precision." Mara stopped for a heartbeat, then smiled faintly. "You think this is instinct?" she asked, almost rhetorically. "It's observation. It's analysis. And yes, a little bit of fun." The instructor lunged with his glaive, a swirling ribbon of pure plasma designed to cut through anything. Mara met it head on, blade against energy, and sparks sprayed like fireworks. He swung again, faster, angrier, but she moved fluidly, twisting, ducking, and redirecting his own energy against him. The Xylan had engineered him to be unstoppable, but he was facing something his species had never encountered, a human who did not obey the expected parameters of survival. From the observation deck, a senior commander whispered, almost to herself, "If she survives, if she defeats him, we have underestimated the entire species." Mara's next move was audacious. She sprinted toward a corner of the arena where the floor panels were damaged, revealing the maintenance grids beneath. Without hesitation, she leapt into the narrow crawlway, disappearing from immediate view. The instructor cursed, spinning to find her, sending drones in pursuit. But Mara had anticipated it. The path she had chosen was rigged. One by one, the drones triggered the panels she had modified moments earlier, detonating in small but controlled bursts. The instructor's attention split, frustration mounting as his traps failed. "Your technology is impressive," Mara said aloud, as if addressing the instructor personally. "But predictable. You rely on patterns, on rules, on certainty. Humans, we improvise." Her voice echoed through the arena's speakers, a calm contrast to the chaos erupting below. The Xylan audience was silent now, their collective assumption that humans were weak, expendable, fragile, shattered piece by piece. The instructor's face contorted. You are not supposed to." Mara emerged from the maintenance crawlway, landing in a crouch atop a raised platform. Sparks flew as a drone collided with her blade mid-air, but she barely flinched. Her eyes scanned the arena, noting every damaged system, every weakened energy node. She was no longer just surviving, she was turning the environment into a weapon. The instructor attempted a direct assault. He summoned a vortex of plasma that should have engulfed her completely, a deadly storm of ionized energy. Mara jumped through it, spinning like a dancer, using the edges of her blade to fracture and redirect the energy. Bolts rebounded against drones, against walls, against his own constructs. A small chain reaction erupted, forcing him to shield himself. Her voice rang again, this time softer, almost a whisper, but cutting through the chaos like a scalpel. "You think you can contain us, control us, dictate how we move or fight? You're wrong. Humans survive by refusing to play by your rules." Then she did something the instructor had never anticipated. She leapt onto a power conduit, high above the arena floor, and ran along it like a tightrope. Sparks flew from exposed circuits as she moved, but she never faltered. At the peak of the conduit, she spun, and with one precise flick, she sent a cascade of live energy crashing down into the instructor's lattice, shorting out half of his constructs in an instant. The instructor screamed, a sound that reverberated through 6 limbs, piercing, guttural, a mixture of rage and disbelief. "How is this possible? You taught me everything," Mara said softly, almost reverently. "Your systems, your energy constructs, your predictability. I learned them all. And now, they are mine." The aliens watching were in shock. Whispers turned to frantic muttering. "She's not just fighting, she's rewriting the rules." Mara moved closer, her boots clicking against metal as she approached the instructor. She didn't strike immediately. Instead, she watched, studied, analyzed. Every twitch, every micro-motion, every assumption he held about the battlefield was visible to her. And then, in one fluid motion, she disarmed him. His plasma glaive shattered against her monomolecular blade, sparks raining down like miniature meteors. He stumbled back, the remaining drones collapsing, the lattice collapsing around him. He was exposed, vulnerable, and for the first time, the instructor felt fear. You are, he rasped, mandibles clicking erratically. This is war? This is human? No. Impossible. Mara's eyes gleamed, calm but piercing. I am human. And this, she gestured to the wrecked arena, is what humans do when cornered. She stepped closer, blade humming faintly. Her voice was quiet, almost intimate, but carried over the arena's speakers like a death sentence. You underestimated me. You underestimated my species. That was your first mistake. It won't be your last. The instructor's 6 limbs trembled, not from exhaustion, but from the dawning realization that his training, his power, his assumptions, were meaningless against a human who did not play by the rules. The arena fell silent for a heartbeat. Then, a single bolt of uncontrolled plasma from the damaged lattice exploded at his feet, sending him sprawling. Mara stood over him, calm, unwavering. She was not just victorious, she was terrifying, and the aliens watching understood it. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was not predictable. Humanity was unstoppable when underestimated. And Mara Quinn, the small human with a steel blade and an unbreakable will, had just rewritten the lesson of the arena: never, ever underestimate a human. The arena had become a tomb of sparks, smoke, and shattered drones, but Mara Quinn did not pause. She moved with calm precision, scanning the instructor and the collapsed lattices around him. His 6 limbs twitched, rebuilding, desperate, improvising, but every move was now predictable, because Mara had already adapted. She had spent a lifetime learning how to survive against impossible odds, and this was no different. You are clever, the instructor growled, his mandibles clicking in a frantic rhythm. But cleverness will not save you in real war. You, human, cannot fight an entire species, cannot anticipate the complexity of the battlefield, cannot. Cannot? Mara cut him off, her blade a silver streak. Watch me. With a sudden leap, she scaled one of the remaining lattice walls, using the broken turrets as footholds. The instructor unleashed another volley of plasma, and this time she didn't deflect it, she redirected it. Her monomolecular blade became a conductor of energy, sending arcs of lethal plasma crashing into the remaining drones. Each explosion was a calculated cascade, a chain reaction she had anticipated even as she moved. By the time the instructor realized what had happened, half of his drone swarm lay in twisted, smoking heaps at his feet. From the observation balcony, alien commanders whispered frantically. She's not just adapting, she's using our own weapons against us. She's human, one hissed, voice tight with disbelief. She's turning everything we built into her arsenal. Mara landed lightly on the arena floor, dust swirling around her boots. The instructor's gaze burned into her, a mixture of fury, fear, and a dawning realization that humans were not only unpredictable, they were terrifyingly innovative. You are not supposed to, he began, but she interrupted him with a laugh. Not supposed to? You mean like when humans invented flight while you were still crawling in caves? She said, voice dripping with dark humor. Or when we crossed oceans you swore were impassable? Or when we... Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. The instructor's plasma glaive hissed, swinging in arcs meant to shred, meant to dominate. Mara danced through it, weaving low, spinning high, and with each movement she fractured his energy constructs. Sparks rained down, and the arena's walls glowed with scorched metal where plasma had met steel and dispersed. You rely on rules, she said softly, almost conversationally. Patterns, algorithms, sequences. But humans, we make our own rules. Then she struck. Her blade sliced through the instructor's shield node, the small device that powered the remaining lattice barriers. The effect was instantaneous. The grids collapsed in a wave of uncontrolled plasma, scorching the arena floor, melting drone chassis, and sending the instructor sprawling. He roared, a sound that reverberated through 6 limbs, guttural and piercing, but Mara did not hesitate. She sprinted toward him, leaping onto the nearest support strut, her blade a blur of motion. "You think victory is about power," she said, her tone deceptively calm. "It's about understanding, anticipating, exploiting weakness." From above, alien commanders clutched consoles and each other. "We underestimated humans," one whispered, voice trembling. "We dismissed them, and they're rewriting the rules of war in real time." Mara twisted midair and landed atop the instructor, knocking him backward with sheer force. He struggled to rise, but his exoskeleton was scorched, his plasma generators malfunctioning. He was powerful, yes, but even power has limits when it meets ingenuity, audacity, and relentless human will. "You think you can teach us?" she said, crouched over him. "You think a species that survived ice ages, plagues, genocides, and interstellar colonization can be intimidated by your arrogance?" His 6 limbs flailed, trying to strike, to counterattack, but Mara's speed, precision, and anticipation were unmatched. She had already predicted his motions, already anticipated the feedback loops of his energy systems. Every strike he attempted was countered, redirected, or neutralized. "You underestimate humans," she said, voice low, almost intimate. "And that is your fatal mistake." The instructor screamed as she spun again, knocking him against the arena wall. Sparks erupted where his plating scraped against exposed conduits. The drones he had summoned were all destroyed or deactivated. The arena that was meant to be his stage of dominance had become a battlefield of humiliation. From the observation decks, aliens were whispering frantically. She's rewriting combat," one muttered. "Not just defeating him, she's dismantling his entire approach." And Mara was far from done. She vaulted onto a catwalk, scanning the arena. The instructor's remaining constructs hummed weakly, faltering under the stress of her attacks. She reached out and triggered one of the emergency overrides on the arena systems, a failsafe that the aliens had installed to prevent total destruction. Within seconds, the floor beneath the instructor's feet began to retract, revealing a deep maintenance pit filled with exposed power conduits and unstable energy nodes. "You rely on fear," she said calmly, stepping closer. "I rely on opportunity." With a swift kick, the instructor lost his footing. He fell into the pit, thrashing, sparks exploding around him. The arena floor quaked. Mara landed beside the edge, her blade humming faintly, eyes calm. She could have struck him further, finished him, but she paused. She wanted him to understand, to feel, the price of underestimating humans. "Steel cannot block plasma," she said softly, voice carrying across the arena. "You cannot outthink a human who doesn't play by your rules. And you should have known better." The aliens in the observation deck were frozen, some in horror, some in disbelief. They had come expecting human fragility, expecting obedience, expecting failure. What they saw instead was a species capable of bending reality itself with ingenuity, audacity, and sheer willpower. Mara stepped back from the pit, surveying the destruction. Drones were smoking piles of metal, plasma arcs flickered in dead silence, and the instructor, pride of the Xylan military, was trapped, powerless, humiliated. Her voice carried across the arena again, now more commanding, more resonant. "Humans survive. Humans adapt. Humans win. You thought this was training? This is a demonstration." And for a brief, terrifying moment, every alien watching understood something fundamental. Humans did not obey the rules. Humans did not play fair. Humans were not just strong, they were unpredictable, brilliant, and relentless. The instructor screamed from the pit, mandibles clicking in terror. Mara smiled faintly, almost tenderly, as if acknowledging the instructor's pain was necessary for him to truly learn. She turned away from the arena floor, knowing this was only the beginning. The real war, the true lessons, would come far beyond these walls, beyond these orbital stations, and across entire star systems. "You underestimate us," she said quietly, almost to herself. "And that will be the downfall of every empire that tries." The observation decks went silent. Aliens whispered warnings, orders, arguments, and panic, but no command could counter what they had just witnessed. One human had just rewritten the tactical playbook of an entire species. Mara Quinn, small, quiet, and terrifyingly intelligent, had survived impossible odds, and she had begun to teach humanity's first lesson: never, ever underestimate a human. The orbital station had gone silent. Smoke curled from shattered drones, the scorched floors glowed faintly under flickering emergency lights, and the alarms that had once screamed were now replaced by a tense, suffocating quiet. Mara Quinn stood at the center of the arena, her monomolecular blade humming faintly, eyes scanning the devastation. Every corner of the observation deck, every shadowed catwalk, every alien commander was watching her, not with curiosity this time, but with fear. The instructor had vanished from the arena floor, trapped in the maintenance pit, still screaming, still thrashing, but powerless. Mara did not move toward him. He was a lesson, the real teaching was about to begin. "Humans survive," she said aloud, her voice calm, resonant, almost lyrical amidst the chaos. "Humans adapt. Humans do not die where you expect. And humans, we strike back." The aliens whispered frantically. They had trained for war, studied human biology and behavior, assumed superiority. They had expected fragility, predictability, and obedience. What they had witnessed was none of that. Mara Quinn had not merely survived, she had demonstrated the terrifying truth of humanity. A single human mind, armed with courage and ingenuity, could dismantle entire systems. But Mara did not intend to stop at an arena. She had already anticipated the next moves. Hours before, hidden under the guise of a training scenario, she had hacked into the station's orbital communication arrays and mainframes. She had left subtle backdoors, silent triggers embedded in every turret, every drone, every energy node. The instructor had been too arrogant to notice. Too focused on the assumption that no human could outthink a Xylan war master. And now, those backdoors activated. The station's main power conduits surged and faltered, sending arcs of energy across containment bays, across weapons storage vaults. Drones erupted spontaneously, targeting their own allies. Energy turrets fired in chaotic bursts, slicing open the reinforced walls the Xylan had so proudly built. Smoke and sparks turned the station into a living, breathing weapon, one controlled entirely by a single human operator. From the observation deck, alien commanders screamed orders, flailing at consoles, but nothing could stop it. Mara had anticipated every countermeasure, every backup system, every potential defense. Her strategy was simple and terrifyingly effective: turn their strength into their weakness. "Do you see?" she whispered to no one, yet somehow her words carried through the station's emergency speakers. "You rely on machines, on energy, on constructs you believe are invincible. You rely on rules. But humans, we make our own rules. And we do not lose." The station shuddered as one of the main power cores overloaded. A chain reaction cascaded through every energy conduit, tearing apart walls, floors, and ceilings. The instructor's scream echoed again, now amplified through the station's internal comms, bouncing off every reinforced panel, a haunting symphony of defeat. Mara did not flinch. She had predicted the overload. The patterns, the plasma flow, even the structural weaknesses were all mapped in her mind. Every move she made was surgical, lethal, and precise. Commanders on the observation deck began evacuating, some floating in zero-gravity lifts, others frantically jacking into escape pods. Mara anticipated this, too. She had already rerouted the station's autopilot to intercept escape pods and jettison them harmlessly into controlled deceleration trajectories around the nearby moon. The humans were watching from hidden orbital ships, grinning silently as their ingenuity unfolded. The aliens would survive, yes, but not without understanding the cost of underestimating humanity. Mara moved among the chaos like a conductor of destruction, her blades slicing through damaged drone limbs, sparking terminals, and shorted out energy nodes. She did not kill indiscriminately, she dismantled, neutralized, and humiliated. Every move was a statement, a message written in fire and metal: do not underestimate us. Ever. And then she accessed the instructor's personal control hub. It had been a fortress, a symbol of Xylan's superiority. Mara tapped a sequence into the console, bypassing locks, shields, and firewalls. The holographic interface flickered, then bent to her command. She accessed the instructor's private network of war plans, his predictive algorithms, his contingency scenarios, all the intelligence he had spent decades perfecting. With a single command, she broadcasted across the station's external communication array to every fleet vessel, every forward base, every intelligence satellite under Xylan control. The entire Empire watched, stunned, as Mara Quinn, a human, unveiled the full extent of their vulnerabilities. Systems they considered secret, strategies they considered untouchable, weaknesses they believed could never be exploited, all now visible to anyone who understood humans. She paused for a moment, floating above the console, blade humming, eyes cold and brilliant. "This is your lesson," she said softly. "You believed in invincibility. You believed in order. You believed that humans were expendable, fragile, weak. You were wrong. Every empire that underestimates humanity learns the same lesson. Sometimes they survive to tell it. Sometimes they do not. Today, you survive, but you remember." Across the station, the instructor screamed again, his pride shattered, his authority annihilated. Mara did not laugh. Her victory was clinical, elegant, terrifying. The aliens in orbit realized, perhaps too late, that the humans had not only survived, they had outthought, outmaneuvered, and humiliated a species that had considered themselves superior for centuries. The first human fleet arrived moments later, small, unassuming ships that no Xylan scanner would have considered threatening. Mara's command was simple: evacuate surviving humans, secure the station, and disable its remaining offensive systems. The aliens scrambled, trying to regroup, but every move they made had already been anticipated. Humans did not react. They planned, they predicted, they created. Every countermeasure they deployed was countered again, almost before it existed. Mara stood on the observation deck, watching the station burn and smolder, her blade dripping with sparks. She was calm. She was terrifying. She was human. And she had just proven, in the most spectacularly brutal way possible, what humans were capable of when underestimated. From the distance, across the void of space, the humans in hiding cheered quietly. No fanfare, no celebration, just the deep satisfaction of a species finally showing what it could do when cornered, when challenged, when pushed to the edge. "Remember this," Mara whispered, voice carried over the station's compromised comms. "Remember all of it. The humans you called weak, the humans you called expendable, the humans you refused to take seriously. We adapt. We survive. And we strike when you least expect it." The instructor's voice echoed faintly through the speakers, broken, defeated, meaningless. Mara ignored it. She had a galaxy to remind of humanity's audacity. One human, maybe small, maybe underestimated, had rewritten the rules of war in real time. And across the Empire, from fleets to colonies to intelligence outposts, the same message rang clear: humans do not follow rules. Humans do not submit. Humans win. In the distance, as the Xylan fleets began to retreat, Mara turned to her small team of human operatives. "Pack up," she said quietly. "The lesson is over. But the war is just beginning." And somewhere, deep within the shredded remains of the instructor's pride, the Empire learned the most dangerous truth of all: humanity cannot be predicted, cannot be controlled, and certainly cannot be defeated by arrogance or technology alone. Mara Quinn raised her blade one last time, a faint hum cutting through the chaos. "This is what humans do," she said softly, almost to herself. "We survive. We endure. We adapt. And when the time comes, we conquer." The stars beyond the station flickered, indifferent to the violence below, but the aliens would never forget. Humanity had struck first, struck brilliantly, and struck terrifyingly. And the galaxy, wide and infinite, had taken note. Humans were no longer a species to pity. Humans were a force to fear.